What's up, everybody? I'm Ryan Thomas. Welcome to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Once again, obviously, I am your host. Today, the Buffalo Bills signed Tyrod Taylor to a 5-year, $92 million contract extension. There's some wrinkles within that. I got to that in part one, but I want to talk about how I feel this deal, what the perception of this deal is around the league. How does this deal make the Bills look, and why? And let's go back to the beginning. In order to start from the top, start recent, sometimes you got to go back to the start. So here we go. Tyrod Taylor signed last year with the Buffalo Bills. He believed, in his own words, that he could win the quarterback competition. He did that. Beat E.J. Manuel for the starting quarterback job. Beat Matt Castle for the starting quarterback job as well. Became the starting quarterback. Played 14 games, went 8-6. Got a Pro Bowl nod. All that somewhat looks good, right? But on the surface, if you look per stat each game, the Buffalo Bills threw the ball very little in comparison to other teams. Ran the ball the majority of the time, leading the NFL in rushing yards, being the number one team in the NFL in rushing. So this team is a running team. Tyrod was not a guy that they really relied on to throw the ball. And when he did, he made some things happen. But, again, 1 year as the Buffalo Bills starting quarterback, he receives a $92 million 5-year extension, and he is yet to play a full season for the Buffalo Bills. As critical as that sounds, it's fact. Played 14 games last year, not 16. So, how does this deal make the Bills look a year later? You go into the offseason, draft Shaq Lawson in the first round, Reggie Ragland in the second round, two guys that I was very hyped about. This 2016 draft I was very hyped about. Shaq Lawson, Reggie Ragland, Kobe Listonby in the later rounds, Adolphus Washington in the third round, Jonathan Williams in the fourth round. I liked a lot of those guys. Kelvin Seymour, the corner/safety, he's a guy that's really turned heads at training camp. I was very happy about him. But how does this deal look to other teams around the league? Basically, what this deal says, in my eyes, is that the Buffalo Bills will pay you to play happy. They will pay you to basically be happy, because Tyrod was not. That's why he got this extension. The Bills were more fearful of Tyrod playing well entering this season and losing him. So they jumped the gun on this contract, wrote it up, structured it in a way that would sound safe to the fans and to the franchise, when in actuality, let's just say the Buffalo Bills go 9-7, which I think is a huge stretch. Let's say the Bills go 9-7. They decide to pick up the second year of this deal, which as of now it actually stands currently, while in writing it's a 5-year deal, technically it's a 1-year deal, because the Bills can scrap this next offseason, or they can decide to give him the option of being the third highest paid Buffalo Bill on the roster behind Marcel Darius and Cordy Glenn, and make $27.5 million. Well, actually, he's the third highest paid. Sorry about that. He's the third highest paid Buffalo Bill now. They can make him the highest paid quarterback in the National Football League for the 2017 season at $27.5 million. In total salary of $15.5 million option bonus and a $12 million base salary. 12 plus 15.5 is 27.5. So that's where we stand. That's the wrinkle in the deal. Also, the last 2 years of club options at $21 million up to $21 million each year, incentive-wise. So if he reaches that point, he'll make $21 million per season. From what I've read, there's some sort of injury clause in it as well. The details have not been released on that quite yet. But the message you're sending to the other teams in the league is that if you have a guy that is not happy, the Buffalo Bills will pay him to be happy, whether he deserves that contract or not. For anyone to say that Tyrod deserved this contract, I definitely disagree. He did not deserve this contract. It's plain and simple. He played one season as a starter and didn't even finish it. Didn't even play a full season. There are moments within games where he looked a little erratic. Jets game in New York at the Meadowlands. Clock management, command of the huddle, throwing the ball away, protecting your body. All things that the greats do well. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. Now Eli Manning, not so much Peyton because he's gone now, obviously. Matt Stafford, Russell Wilson, Cam Newton. All those guys, they protect their body. Russell Wilson especially, a guy that has a very similar physical stature compared to Tyrod Taylor. He protects his body. He slides, he rolls out, runs towards the sideline. Tyrod needs to do a better job of that, and I have a good point. Reason being that at training camp, he tried to dive over a defender in midair, landed funny, and everyone kind of just gasped for air, and he was okay. What if he wasn't okay? Little things like that come back to bite you. When you have a guy that plays as wild as he does, physically, he'll get hurt. And he has proven that. He's 6 foot, maybe 210 pounds. He's a guy that has a small build. He's not built like Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has big legs. Russell Wilson has a strong upper body. Tyrod does not. So physically, he's not at the same level. Same stature, yes. Physically and with the physical mass, no. Not the same body type. So this deal the perception of this deal around the league, to me, if I was a team, I would look at this deal and say, hey, he wasn't happy. He had a decent year last year, not a great year, but a decent year. And Buffalo wanted to keep him happy, so they paid him. Whatever happens there happens. But my idea of what should have happened, what I would have done, if for those of you that want to know, what would I have done? You asked me, what would you do? And I get why you asked me that, because, I have this podcast, and I have a real public sports opinion on Facebook, on Instagram, on myfantasysportstalk.com, through my articles, through Sabres Hockey Central with my articles as well. So it's real easy to say, well, what would you do? What would I do? I would let this guy play under the contract that he currently was under, the $3.5 million contract that he was signed for, and I would make him play and prove his worth to the team. That's what I would have done. I wouldn't have worried about fear of playing better than he might be or anything like that, or, playing, what if he plays better, he could leave? That's fine. If he played better and wanted more money than what he was worth to the team, then he should go. That's the reality of the NFL, of the National Football League. That's what happens sometimes. Brock Osweiler. Denver was not going to pay Brock Osweiler $18 million. The only team that was crazy enough to do that and desperate enough to do that was Houston. Nobody was going to pay Tyrod Taylor $27.5 million next season. Only Buffalo was going to do that. Only Buffalo was going to do that. No other team in the National Football League would pay Tyrod Taylor $27.5 million. That's a fact. That is a fact. Now you have this structured deal of hodgepodge options and all this crap that's in front of you. And rather than letting this guy just play out his contract, what if we do finish in the bottom 10 this year? What if we do finish 6-10? What if we go 7-9? Then Tyrod should say bye. We should say bye-bye. Bye-bye, Tyrod. Bye-bye. $9.5 million richer instead of $3.5. $6 million down the toilet for a team that desperately needs cap space to sign guys like Stephon Gilmore, to re-sign guys like Sammy Watkins down the road. These things need to be thought of before these deals are written up. And, if we do finish in the top 10, in picks-wise, the bottom 10, I should say, top 10, if we finish between the first overall pick and the 10th overall pick, Chad Kelly would look pretty nice in a Buffalo Bills uniform. He'd have a pretty long leash, being that he's practically Buffalo royalty already, being the nephew of former Buffalo Bills great Jim Kelly. There's wiggle room within that. There's room to improve within that. The leash is a little bit longer with a Chad Kelly. And it's not like he doesn't have the talent. We're not talking about drafting Chad Kelly just because he's Jim Kelly's nephew. This guy is a great college quarterback. One of the best college quarterbacks, if not the best, heading into the 2016 season. Ole Miss beat Alabama. Ole Miss was the only team to beat Alabama. Great college quarterback. A guy that can throw accurately, a guy that can lead an offense, a guy that can manage a huddle, a guy that is poised under pressure, a guy that has some mobility to him as well. So this guy isn't a bust. He could transition to this league. He's a smart kid. He's a bright kid. He went back to Ole Miss after losing Laramie Tunsil, after losing Laquan Treadwell. Two guys that were selected in the first round of this past year's draft. A case could be made easily for this kid coming to Buffalo. Why not? Why not? Now, those plans are up in the air. It's all based on Tyrod Taylor, a guy that finished the season last year with 14 games, 8 of which were wins. It's one game better than 500. Football is a team sport, but if we're talking about signing a quarterback to an extension that's 5 years, $92 million, does 8 wins out of 14 scream a $92 million extension? No. No, it does not. And I really hope the people that are excited about this listen to this. I really do. Because this is just honesty and facts. This isn't just an opinion. This is reality of the situation. You jumped the gun. You played within the market's hands. You have a choice to do that or not to do that, and Buffalo decided to do that. They decided to jump into that market, jump onto that train, you could say. Join the teams that have overpaid quarterbacks. Why? Why join the Chicagos? Why join the Baltimores? Why join the Houston Texans quarterback situation? Joe Flacco makes too much money. Jay Cutler makes too much money. Brock Osweiler makes too much money. Joe Flacco and Jay Cutler make so much money that these teams are pretty much handicapped from getting better. We don't want to hear that as Bills fans. We've been without the playoffs for 16 years. We know this. 16 years without the playoffs. Since I was 7. I'm 24. It's funny, but it's not funny. It's ridiculous. This is football. How hard could it be? Bring in talent. That's it. Obviously, it's easier said than done, but within bringing in talent, don't make stupid moves along the way. This is like the best. This was the best case scenario for the Bills heading into this season. A quarterback at a real low cap figure, $3.5 million entering the 2016 season. You could have had a lot of luxury with that. That luxury's gone. Now he's making $9.5. Every million counts for sure in a cap year where your cap is strapped. Now it's even more strapped. Very frustrating. The perception around the league, again, I look at the Buffalo Bills, I say, well, this guy wasn't happy. They decided to pay him. It's as simple as that. Does Buffalo pay players when they're not happy? Is that the perception that we want around the National Football League? No, that's not. Do we pay players a lot that aren't that good? Our track record would say yeah. Ryan Fitzpatrick, does that ring a bell? Mario Williams, does that ring a bell? Mario Williams is here for 4 years. He was good for 2. The first year and the second to last year. Or the second year and the third year, actually. First year he was terrible. He had that wrist injury. Ryan Fitzpatrick, a career journeyman, gets a 6-year, $62 million deal. Thank God they were able to get out of that. But even with that, they didn't get out unscathed. $3 million 1 year to not play for the Bills, $7 million the next year to not play for the Bills. Ryan Thomas is burning. Take care.